Welcome back to Iron and Forage. We had an awesome one for you today. We're going to be installing an AgXcellence BPM 101 on this brand new Massey Ferguson 1840 baler. Let's go. All right, so why a stroke counter? Everybody probably is asking that question. Hay has been baled for God knows how long. Those people obviously back in the day didn't have one. So why do I want one? Well, we had a couple things with this baler that we wanted to push the limits with a little bit. I don't think it's ever good to run your equipment, completely maxed out red line, but at the same time, it needs to be able to produce some efficiency. So it's just my wife and I that do this. My stepdad helps sometimes to pick up hay, but very rarely is anybody else in the baling tractor other than my wife or myself. I wanted her to be able to be comfortable knowing that she's running the baler appropriately without, overfeeding it or underfeeding it or taking too long. And same thing for me. I want our hay to be as best as it possibly can be when it goes to our customers. And that's what we strive for. I always, in the New Holland, sat there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., listening to the plunger strokes and then waiting for the needles to hit. And after doing that for 2 years, it got a little bit tiresome. I'd like to sit in the tractor and listen to music more than just the baler and me counting in my head. So that's why we're doing it. The other really nice thing about this particular product too is it also does moisture. We had to do an AgXcellence or something for moisture. Those things aren't incredibly accurate that go in the bale chamber here. This one goes in the bale chamber as well, and I'll show you when you guys install it why I think it's going to be a little bit more accurate. Ultimately, we check everything with a probe before we bale anyways, but it's more of a, hey, when are we going to stop? And unfortunately here in Michigan in the summertime, we might be able to start at 1 o'clock, and then by 7 o'clock we have to be done because either the dew's coming in or the humidity goes up or whatever the case may be, depending on when it is in the year. You might see a couple different scenes in this install video. We had it over in our big barn, and I was going to hook it up to the big tractor. The weather here in Michigan is just crazy. Today is April 10th, and we just got done having 3 inches of rain, so my barn next door is very wet, and I didn't want to film it in a wet area. So we're going to go through this. We're going to go step by step. This particular monitor is a little interesting. It's got a stroke counter that's pretty simple, just how fast is the baler going? Is it at its full 100 strokes, or is it at 95 or 92 or whatever you want to, your desired running speed is. And then it also has a true flake counter, which is new for them, and that I think is going to take a little bit more in-depth explaining of how that works once we get it on. And then the other nice thing is it has a moisture pad that goes on each side, and then it'll actually read in the cab left and right side in the monitor. So, if you are picking up a little bit of wet hay that, for whatever reason, if the windrow's so big and one side's facing the tree lines, it's a little bit more wet, you can at least see it and say, hey, I'm going to come back to this row later. We looked at a bunch of different monitors. We looked at, going back to the AgXcellence basic, moisture monitor. Again, we had one on the New Holland. We didn't like it. It just didn't work that good. We always had to calibrate it, and sometime by calibration, I mean I take my Durham probe, stick it in the hay at where the plates are, and it could say in the tractor that it's reading 16% and it's really, 19, or vice versa. It could say it's 15% out here and it's really 10. So then you'd have to go in and adjust it, okay, 5-6 points offset. Just never felt good. I didn't like doing that. I'm sure we're gonna have to do that with this one somewhat. It's not like a Gazika or something where it's using microwave to do it. We looked at Best Bale. That was another one we looked at, and I did not love the price of the Best Bale system. If you look on their website, I think it was $17.99 for the base package. That only gives you a stroke counter and a bale counter. It does not give you a true flake counter, nor does it give you moisture. So I talked to those guys. I said, hey, I want to put one of these on my baler. What's the moisture thing cost? $300-400. They came back and said, no, it's about $1,000. And I went, okay, well, why? Is it something new? Is it a hybrid? It's like, no, it's the same Durham pads that, you know, we've used in the past. It's like, okay, it's a good brand, but $1,000, next thing you know, you're going to spend close to $3,000 on one of these systems. And for me, you know, that was too much. So this AgXcellence one, in my opinion, I think it's going to be just as good. And you can get all in moisture, stroke, flake, bale count, you know, for around $1,700 to $1,800. And if you guys stay tuned to the end, I got something really cool for you from AgXcellence that they hooked me up with, along as you guys. So make sure you stay tuned to the end. We're gonna get ready to start installing this. Let's go. Here's what's included in the kit when you order your AgXcellence stroke counter. I actually printed this documentation off for my specific baler. They have it online. It's just an 18-pager. It's very thorough to follow. I got 2 moisture pads with mine, 1 for each side. The brackets to do the actual flake counter. You got the proximity sensors. This is your stroke counter and wiring harness. You actually get a full ram mount with the unit as well. And you get a very thoroughly done, nice wiring harness. It's already all shielded plenty long enough. Simple, almost like automotive connections with a nice snap on it so they don't come apart. Okay, so I had to do a little bit of rearranging in here. I'll put a picture up here of what this looked like beforehand. I gotta put my radio back in over here. I've got it mounted with this ram mount. It's a little more wobbly than I would like. And really, it's not the unit's fault. This unit doesn't weigh a lot. It's just that ram mount is just kind of wonky with how I'm gonna mount it in here. So I think what I'm gonna do is 3D print a bracket. That's kind of what I did here on this guy. The back side, I actually designed that bracket and 3D printed it to mount this Midland radio. So I think what I'm gonna do for this is put that, I like this spot. It's a good spot to mount with that. It's not in the way of this. I actually moved this over a little bit. I actually kind of like it a lot better, and having the radio back here instead of up here, I'll get better sound of it going in my ear, because sometimes it's a little more quiet than I would like. Yeah, I think doing my own bracket that kind of comes on this bar straight down. I like the spot of it here. I just don't like, you know, the termination of that bracket. That's just you going across bumps and stuff. It's not good for the unit. And something else I kind of want to point out before we get started, I obviously showed you what all this stuff is already, but now that I've got it out of the box and I'm kind of looking at it, you know, they did such a good job building all of these. I actually went online to order a power plug, you know, for my New Holland tractor. And I said, you know what, I should go look and see what kind of ends on it. Well, you know, there's an included power plug already in this harness. And everything in these harnesses are labeled. There is no question of what each one of these are. Like, right hand moisture. You know, there's your hookup for that. Left hand moisture. You know, on the other side of this, I think it says to drawbar. So basically, you know, to the monitor area. All these are the same way. They're labeled really nice. These are made really good. They're taped really good. You know, the connectors are really nice. I really appreciate quality like that and simplicity. That is, you know, something in this world that I feel like keeps going away is simplicity. You know, not everybody is a electrical or mechanical engineer to figure this stuff out. You basically plug it into the required area and go on your business. I mean, even on these ends, there's your stroke sensor. I mean, it's so well laid out. I really, really appreciate that. All right, so first thing we're gonna do here that the instructions say, and I'm gonna kind of go along with the instructions, it makes sense to me. The first thing is gonna be is to put the proximity sensor on. Let me get this light in here so you can see. So that idler gear, you need to take that bolt off and pull the idler gear off. And there's a supplied bracket, which I'll show you when I get it installed. That goes in that particular area. I'm going to tell you one thing up front, though, that I think you should do. Come around to the front and kind of just check that chain in there. It's not this top chain here. It's this bottom chain that's down there. Just check how tight it is so that way you can put it on, you know, kind of how you took it off. I think that is a little bit important. If you wanted a little bit better access to this and you don't care, there's a bolt here and these two bolts here. You could take that off to get this panel off. I guess you would also have to unbolt the two bolts, that one and that farther one, which go to the box to get this panel off. I don't want to do that because I'd have to cut this decal to do that. I think there's enough room to get a ratchet in there and get that out. So I'm going to try to do that way, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so we got that gear out. Not a huge ordeal. 3/4 inch deep well socket, super easy. There's going to be this lock washer here and a regular nut, and then that's the gear I took off. Another thing on this baler, if you're ever working on it, put something on the top of it instead of just throwing stuff on it. This paint scuffs a lot easier than I would probably like. Even with it ceramic coated, it still scratches pretty good, so just keep that in mind. I also have the first proximity sensor here, so you can kind of see how this works before I stick it in the baler. I would suggest putting this bracket, and this again is a supplied bracket. There's a nut on each side of the proximity sensors that we'll have to adjust this later because it's got to be a certain spacing, but basically this is going to go on the back side of the gear. So this gear goes like this onto the baler like that. So it's going to be kind of riding like that. And then you can kind of visualize this sensor is reading each, I think it's actually reading the valleys of this. It kind of has a laser that goes in here. And then every time that plane gets broken, you know, that counts as a stroke, and they have that calibrated in the system to do that. So that's kind of how this goes. So once it's back on the baler, you know, it's going to look like that. We're going to get that installed, and then we'll be back. Okay, I actually pulled this bolt out. This is the adjustment bolt that goes into that baler, and then it kind of slides up and down. I was thinking about this, and it's like, well, that's a pretty sizable chunk of metal. I don't know that I want to kick that chain that far over. Well, the factory actually comes with 2 washers, and it doesn't say anything in the manual about removing this washer, but if you look, they are, my camera will focus, they are almost identical. So I'm going to leave one of these off so that way the factory, you know, how it rides left and right on this idler sprocket doesn't change. I think that's probably the better way to go about this. I also think assembling all of this together makes a little bit more sense, and then putting it in the baler, because you can kind of push this washer forward and then get this in the groove and then push it up instead of trying to get this on and then put the gear on and then put your nut on and then trying to get it up against the chain. I think you can kind of assemble this all together. All right, so I kind of put this together just so you can see what it will look like. This actually is in the right orientation of how it would go in the baler. That proximity sensor is actually going to go farther down. It's just sitting here, but do not pull that bolt out, this bolt out of there, because you will not be able to get the bolt with the sprocket on it back into the channel to do the adjusting. You're going to have to put the bolt in and then put the washer on and then put the sensor bracket on and then the gear and then your lock washer and then the nut. Otherwise, you just can't get it in there all put together like that. All right, so we got that sensor installed. It's supposed to be parallel with that chain. I went just a little bit below parallel. As I thought, double check that chain before you take this idler sprocket off, because actually in the 1840 Massey Ferguson book, there's nothing about how tight that chain's supposed to be, and getting that idler super tight again, I actually took a piece of rebar and went up this way with it to hit on the back side of that nut to push this to get it as tight as it was, you know, prior to I took it off. It's kind of a bear. I would definitely recommend doing it with 2 people, but we got it back tight. The sensor's on. You're supposed to adjust that sensor to 1/4 inch to start. And that sensor apparently will illuminate and it will tell you if it's close enough or not. I'm gonna wait and install the other 2 sensors before I do any of the wiring stuff, just to kind of get that out of the way. So we'll do the wiring separate, and we're gonna get on to the probably bale counter sensor next. All right, so here's the location where the other sensor goes that reads off of the needle carriage. There are 2 factory holes down here. I'm going to use this one here. Your sensor goes in this L bracket that's supplied, and that's going to get mounted right here again to look at the needle. Now, in the instructions, there is some stuff that you can mount it higher up here to sense off of this yoke. I am not going to do that because it's kind of confusing on how it is in the documentation how to do that, and I actually emailed them to get a little bit more clarification, and that it is an alternate spot for an 1840, but the preferred area is this hole down here. So I got this bracket installed. I used a carriage bolt down here. I don't know if this is going to matter right now, but I did it anyway. So I had a spacer from something else just to move this over so it's more in line with this to sense. It may not make a difference. We'll see how these proximity sensors work, but I figured since I had it, I was just going to put it in. So I think the next step is we're going to start working on the moisture pad install, and then we'll get to the wiring. For the moisture brackets itself, so you've got the, cable, and it has these ends on it, which, I don't know. I don't know how in love I am with having the ends on it with how this is, because these actually sit inside the bale chamber on the back side, and you have to drill a 3rd hole to stick these through. Either, stick this end through, or, these 2 ends. I don't know. They're probably close. These pads are significantly bigger than what I'm used to, and they are very heavy duty. These are going to stick out in the bale chamber quite a bit. I mean, you're going to get really, really good contact. So something they don't include in this kit, and I'm actually going to mention them and tell them that I think it's a good idea, is one of the manufacturers I put on, they had stickers for these that were like exact drilling templates. I went ahead and kind of, with my 3D printer, mocked up, if I draw a center line in here, here's my center, and if I take this guy and put it on, I can drill all of my holes just by having this kind of taped down the side of the baler. So again, I'm going to put those lines on here, get this, maybe tape it with some masking tape or something. Once I have it exactly where I want it, then I've got my exact hole size, for the bolt holes plus that center hole to run the electrical wire through, and then just repeat the process on the other side. We're going to go ahead and get that done, and then after I get those holes drilled, I'm going to go mic these to see what size drill bits I actually need. I will give you guys an update for the drill bit size for these, as well as if it's better to shove that end through and drill a hole that big, or if it's better to go on this side. I have a feeling it's going to be better to go on this side. All right, so I got this taped up there. I just used a square up here and then took a tape measure and bumped it up against there to get it to transfer the line down. Drew a center line. So you can see I got that marked up. I drilled my left and, or I didn't drill, but I marked my left and right thing and put it in the center, and then same thing in this line, lined it up. Just put some duct tape there. I'm gonna go ahead and drill these holes. Okay, I got the holes drilled. Went and actually bought a new drill bit set for this just because I wanted to make some, nice pretty holes. Nice Milwaukee set. So this guy, I don't know if I can get the camera to focus, 25/64 is what you're going to need for these bolts. And then I took a 1/2 inch actually and ran it through there for that centerpiece. Worked really good. I've got it through there now. So on the back of these pads, there's 4 nuts and there's only 2 leads to go on. And I don't know that it matters either direction if, white needs to go on top or black needs to go on the bottom. I don't really think it makes a difference. I'm going to go ahead and get this bolted in there, and then we'll come back and do the other side. right, I think I'm going to fire up the 3D printer one more time. So one thing I don't love about this, you drill this massive fresh 1/2 inch hole here, and I mean, it's rough, and I probably should go get some paint just to paint this. But what I really don't like is how these wires sit in this hole. It's kind of pressed up against the metal. I'm going to 3D print some grommets to go in here so it comes out and this wire sitting in the middle and then it's protected by plastic instead of it rubbing up against the metal. I think that'll make this last a lot longer. So here's the grommets that I printed. You can see I got just a little focus, little cut in it just so I can put it through the wires, and a little hole in the middle, and these are just big enough. I used my micrometer and put it in here. I mean, these just push in. And then there, your grommet will look exactly like that. And then the wires obviously come through it. So I'm going to get those put in, get this all buttoned up, and then we will get on to probably doing wiring next. I'm going to put the flake counter in last, just because there's not a ton of information on that yet. That's kind of a new thing from them. Mounting's not really certain where we're going to put it. So I want to get the trip set up right, and then get that one up here in the knotter idler set up correctly and make sure it's working in the tractor. And I got to temporarily mount the monitor in the smaller tractor and clean up my mess a little bit here. I hate working in a mess. So we will probably resume this tomorrow and hopefully get it wrapped up. All right, so it's the next day. Just got cleaned up a little bit. I got these grommets in here. I'm gonna tape this off. I got the harness laid out on the ground just so you guys can see how long it is. There's plenty, obviously, length there for whatever application you're gonna need. And, you know, we've got probably 4 foot of moisture cable. So I'm gonna work on trying to find the best route. I'm thinking I'm gonna go follow this hydraulic line, which is exactly what I did for my camera and the lights that go to the back of the accumulator. I'm gonna play around with this for a little bit, and when I kind of figure it out, I'll bring you guys back and we'll go through hooking this up. Remember I said the weather's being crazy in Michigan? So yesterday it was 85 degrees. It was pretty nice out. Today it is sleeting, and we got another 1/2 inch of rain last night, and it's supposed to be 46 degrees today for a high. Not fun. All right, so here's what I ended up doing for the wiring harness. I'm gonna put another zip tie here just to make this, you know, kind of out of the way. Get your moisture. I went on the hood latch area, just used a zip tie. Make sure you leave enough room if you go this route, because this is gonna be further up. I thought about going under here, and then on the back side of this in this C channel, I just don't like it because the amount of dust and everything that's gonna get in here. You know, I know it's not a huge ordeal, but there's too many little areas for stuff to get in, you know, to get caught if it comes loose. Back here, you know, there's nothing really moving. This one, which is the one that goes to the stroke counter, bit more tricky. So I have it routed under, and it goes down there and then up into that sensor. I know it's kind of hard to see. I should have grabbed my light. To my knowledge, there is nothing that's going to be kind of in the way here. And I'll cycle the baler by hand just to make sure that, you know, nothing down here is going to move. I don't think it is. I actually think it being on the other side of this bracket protects it from this needle yoke moving. So I'm going to go with that for now. I did a little bit of other crazy zip tying on the rest of this. I got the camera cord, you know, routed it up here. So my baler was actually equipped with the Simply Bale harness. That's a system Massey Ferguson makes. That's what this other one is. Came over with the AgXcellence harness, came over through here, just looped up the extra. You know, it's going to be fine back here. There's nothing to move. Anything that's going to move is down here, and it's just this yoke. I went down and I actually followed the hydraulic line off of this, which goes to the front pump, and then split and made it up on the top of this ridge here and then through the front. Really should have grabbed my light so you could see, but there's that harness coming, and then I just zip tied it. There's a bracket up here. I zip tied it to the bracket so it's on the other side of this ledge, and then routed it on the underside. And then there's actually a space over here where it comes out. And I'm gonna do a little bit more wire management. I got some stuff I gotta do for my cameras before I zip tie this. Another thing I think I'm gonna do, I saw this in a YouTube video recently, super smart, get a clevis pin, or a clevis for this, put a pin through it, and then you can take all these wires and pin it to the 3-point. That way it's out of the way of the PTO. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get the monitor mounted, well, not mounted, but temporary on in this cab so I can hook it up and we can start doing some testing. Okay, I got the monitor temporary set up in here. I'm gonna try to show this to you guys as best as I can. So I went through and did some of the settings already. It's really easy. In the documentation here, it actually shows you everything that you need to do. So if you need to get in the menu and change something, like I had to change my moisture sensors, you're gonna hold shift. You're actually gonna have to hold that for about 10 seconds. And then it's gonna give you a menu, and you just, you know, kind of go through the menu to find what you want. So the first thing that we need to go to is number 2. That's gonna be to set up your stroke counter. So then you hit shift again to go into that menu. It says for an 1840 that this needs to be set on 40 pulses / strokes for it to read the appropriate number. So it was that, mine was actually that way when I got it, so I didn't need to mess with it. You hit shift again to go back out. The next thing was set up moisture sensor. So because we have 2, we had to set it 1 for each side. So again, you go shift, you can kind of just go through these and go none, left only, right only, both. Shift to go back out. The next one's going to be the read display, so like how fast you want these to update. I left mine in medium. We'll play with it more in the field during first cutting. GPS input if you have the GPS sensor for this. Calibration speed sensor, same thing. If you have the GPS, you need to calibrate it. Set up the bale count sensor. This one, I need to play around a little bit. I haven't verified that any of the sensors work yet. I just wanted to get this set up. It says bales per pulse, so I'm assuming if you have it mounted in the alternate location, there would actually be 2 pulses when the yoke goes around. For ours, I think it's going to be just 1, because as the needles go up, it's going to go away and then come back. So I'm going to leave it there, but don't quote me on any of that. Next one's going to be, there's an in-out test, which we may use for some diagnostic stuff later. Set up backlight, show software, and then if you want to go back, you go back to option 0, hit shift. One thing I did want to show is this is where you adjust your moisture offset. So if you do need to, you know, plus minus, you can do that. So here, I'm going to leave mine at 0 until we get it in the field. I'm going to go verify that everything is okay for me to start running the baler. I want to see if I can get it to show at least the stroke count part with the baler running, and we'll be back. All right, I just wanted to verify that these sensors are actually, you know, reading. So this one, if you look, there's a yellow LED on it. I have not adjusted this one yet. I would say we got probably close to a 1/4 inch clearance off of this. I'm gonna leave that one as is. This one took a little bit of finagling, so it's gonna be really hard to see, I think. I put my hand down here though. You can see there's a yellow on my hand, so I think that's where that one needs to be. It's a little closer than I would like. I think it's probably closer to 1/8 of an inch, and that's what the book says. I have a feeling this guy's going to need to be adjusted though, because I think it's actually too close. I don't think it's going to read the valleys, but we'll see. All right, so I'm in the cab. Sorry if it's noisy. We're going to try it, see what happens here. Look at that. So right now I got the tractor running at idle. I mean, it's at 240 RPM. I don't want to get super crazy with the baler completely empty. But if we do get it to full ramming speed here, yeah, I would say that's very accurate. So now I need to test if the bale tie works, because clearly the stroke part's working. So let me turn this down, turn this on. All right, let's go check it out. So this is what it says right now. I'm gonna go tie it and see if this goes to 2. I have these tied off back here. Good. Let me go see if we have a bale. Look at that. Second bale tied, 80 strokes. So this right now, again, because it does not have the flake counter in, is just counting how many strokes it is per bale. So that baler went 80 strokes before it tied a bale. So it's working appropriately now. I'm gonna get some of this buttoned up and then we will be back. All right, that's it. Honestly, this install was really, really easy. It took me maybe 5 hours in totality, and that included the time to go inside and design a couple of those 3D printed pieces. No special tools really. I mean, you're talking 2 drill bits. Honestly, you could have done the rest of it with an adjustable wrench and a Allen key just for the moisture sensors and maybe a 1/4-inch socket. Super, super easy. I told you if you stay to the end of this video, there's going to be something really cool. I called the guys at AgXcellence. I said, hey, I have a YouTube channel. I'm trying to get it, going. Is there a possibility I can get a promo code to give, the people who watch this video if you're interested in one of these? And they said, hey, no problem. So promo code's going to be up here. It's Jeremy10. You'll get 10% off your order at AgXcellence. I'll put that down in the description. Again, super easy. You guys saw it worked first try. There's a couple little nuance things that I think if you buy one of these and as soon as you start playing with it, you'll understand it better, especially those proximity sensors. There's nothing to go wrong with this thing. It's going to be really bulletproof unless, you route a cable wrong and it gets caught in something and breaks. Other than that, I don't see a lot of problems with this thing. I'm going to make a separate video for the flake counter. There's some stuff with that flake counter bracket wise and everything that I want to get worked out with the guys at AgXcellence before I install it on this baler. That's something completely new for them. They haven't done one on an 1840 yet. So I'm going to call them, have a conversation about it before I do that. And I'll do that as like a separate upgrade video. And then once I get it mounted in the T5.140 in its final home, I'll do kind of a quick little video of it all hooked up with the accumulator and camera so you can kind of see what we're working with. Again, super easy install. I'm pumped for this thing. I think it's going to massively help our production this year, especially when my wife's running the baler. She doesn't want to break anything and, doesn't run it enough to know that, hey, when it sounds like this, we need to back off, or when it sounds like this, you can go a little quicker. I think the productivity level out of having this stroke counter is going to be massive. And again, we needed the moisture piece anyways. So enough rambling for today. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you. Like and subscribe. Thanks.